I'm Teresa Carraggio, and this is Third Paradigm. My title today is Palestine is the Heart. I thought about whether I would say Palestine is the heart of the conflict, because that's certainly been true for at least the last 4 decades. But then I thought, no, there's something more than that. Palestine is the heart of the world. And that's why it's had so much occult significance to the Yahwist. There is no other villain that is mentioned more often in the Bible than Canaanites and Canaan. If you look at an ancient map of Canaan, it goes from the river to the sea, right where Greater Israel is supposed to be located. So I'm going to be looking at a theory that I want to propose, that it's not just that Canaan was the most servile of slaves, as cursed by Noah to be forever to the Shemites. Instead, I think that what Canaan was is the divine mother. That is why Canaan has had more focus on it. It is the place that they want to have sacrificed. And by they, I mean the Yahwist and those who are writing the Yahweh myth, which is, I think, the Aryan sky gods as they would fashion themselves. I'll be looking at the goddess culture in Canaan and how it was not defeated but erased, not even mentioned as a villain. And to do this, I'll be involving extensive quotes from Merlin Stone in When God Was a Woman. One of the tricks of the Levites, who were the Luvians from Anatolia, who served the Aryan sky gods as they saw themselves. What they did was usurp the names, and therefore they could claim these ancient histories, because what they did was superimpose their culture onto a name that already represented a culture. So we have Israel, which is Isis, the goddess, and then Ra and El, who were both her consorts. The name Jesus is also Isis, because remember, there's no J in Aramaic, and therefore every time you see a J, it is a tell that is a hex word. There's also no vowels in Hebrew. Hebrew is this abbreviated language that is a way of passing on a code where it tricks us into a lie and a demon snags our tongue. So if you take out the J and the vowels from Jesus, you end up with SS, or Isis. Canaan is sacred to all 3 Abrahamic patriarchal religions. Jerusalem, which is another hex word with that J in it, comes from Hierosolyma. From the etymology, ancient Greek Hierosolyma, from the biblical Hebrew Yerushalayim, influenced by ancient Greek hieros, sacred or holy. Although those seem nothing like each other, the common consonants translated into the Hebrew code are R, S, L, and M. The word hero isn't really holy the way that we think of it today, but the one that Yahweh, a word with no hard consonants, supposedly appointed as the ruling heir, as hierarchy is the inheritance order of the archons. I suspect that the Greek version came first, with the Bible inversion later. And even when we say the culture is Greek, a demon snags our tongue. Greece was a goddess culture and only became a patriarchy after the Hyksos, hexing cult of Set, and their Habaru, Hebrew terrorist thugs, were evicted from Egypt by Moses, another inversion. Is Greece where they went next? Zeus is the sky god Deus, who births his children on his own, exploding them out of his forehead. So that sounds natural to me, doesn't it to you? The graft grift. As I said, Part of the Hexet playbook was to subsume the identities of your enemies by usurping their names. So that way you not only conquer them militarily, but you also erase them. So this was done to the goddess culture of Isis Ra-El and also to the lioness of Judah, which may have been part of the Moorish culture. It was also done to Egypt, Sumer, Canaan, and the Hellenes. There is no native land of Zion because Zion is the concept of conquest. It was coming from all different places with these nomadic men who were in bands in a hierarchy with the Aryan sky lords at the top, and then the Levite Luvians, who were the Anatolians, who were also the linguists and the myth makers and the charioteers. And then under them, you had the Habaru, who were the Hebrew terrorist thugs. This is what took over different cultures, and it wasn't native to any one. That Zion comes from Sion, which is a graft onto a hardy indigenous root. The root is the mother. The fruit is the child. And so we have this biblical phrase, by their fruits shall ye know them. But not really the roots? Biblical bears and cats. The Bible has one common theme, which is a younger son who steals the inheritance of the oldest through trickery, paternal favoritism, some kind of deus ex machina intervention, or the ultimate sin of the oldest, which is marrying a Canaanite woman. I don't think that any women exist in the Bible. Whenever there's a named woman, she represents a territory. Seth, which is another spelling of Set, is the third born, who then kills the second born and blames it on the oldest and the rightful heir, Cain. The Sethian Gnostics are described as Hellenist Canaanites in the 2nd century of the Common Era. According to their Apocrypha of John, Cain and Abel are the result of the seductions of Eve by the demiurge. The Christ of the text says the true name of Cain is Yahweh, with a face like a bear. He is the unrighteous. The true name of Abel is Elohim, with a face like a cat. Elohim is the righteous. So El is the consort of the Canaanite goddess Ashtoreth. The consort of the high priestess was called the shepherd. So perhaps the killing of Abel is the murder of the male consort or a protector of the goddess Asherah by the jealous Yahweh, who then sheds his sin and morphs into Seth. Set is a usurping of the name of the Egyptian goddess All-Set. The jackal god Set kills his brother and consort Osiris in her form as Isis, I think. Again, it's revenge on the mother by killing the favored son consort. Sex becomes the Set hex. The sexual freedom of women to choose their own lovers and raise their own children in a secure community of women is the hallmark of the goddess culture. Rape, conquest, and violence is the hallmark of the gods. Dating as far back as 7000 BCE, goddess statues have been found in Canaan. From the late Bronze Age of 1500 to 1300 BCE, plaques of Ashtoreth are found throughout Canaan. In Canaanite legends, the goddess Anath is the deity of greatest valor and strength. In When God Was a Woman, Merlin Stone quotes J. Hastings from his 1900 Dictionary of the Bible, saying of Ashtoreth, "The goddess was the chief divinity of the Semites in their primitive matriarchal stage of organization. She was the analog of the human matriarch, free in her love, the fruitful mother of the clan, and its leader in peace and war." And of course, I never use the word matriarch because it is a contradiction of terms with matri as mother and archon as ruler over. So those two things don't go together. When the spies of Abraham report on the goddess culture at the end of the Late Bronze Age, they say, "We went into the land to which you sent us. It does indeed flow with milk and honey. This is its produce." At the same time, its inhabitants are a very powerful people. The towns are fortified and very big. That's from Numbers 13. So Canaan was a successful, thriving goddess culture for almost 6,000 years. For the next 800 years, when the Set cult invaded, God's gender became an active debate. And by debate, I mean capture all the cities, put to death everyone in them, men, women, and dependents, leave no survivor. The Bible also says, kill every male dependent and kill every woman who has had intercourse with a man, but spare for yourselves every woman among them who has not had intercourse. And all the silver and gold, all the vessels of copper and iron shall be holy. They belong to the Lord, and they must go to the Lord's treasury. As the Amarna letters attest, with the Habaru Hebrews in Egypt, the army was paid in rape and plunder, saving the precious metals for the Levites, Luvians, and their Aryan sky god masters. Numbers 31 lists the spoils in the order of sheep, cattle, asses, and 32,000 girls who had had no intercourse with a man, and given the absence of real men in the Yahweh's culture, never would. Philistines are Falastin, which equals Palestine. To erase the goddess, she is mentioned only in conjunction with her consorts, the Baals, as if she is a minor character not worthy to be the villain. Merlin lists accounts from the Bible showing the total annihilation may have been a wee bit exaggerated. Judges 2, and they forsook the Lord and worshipped Baal and Ashtoreth. Judges 3, and the people did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, forgetting the Lord their God, and served the Baals and the Ashtoreth. Samuel 7, Samuel spake unto the house of Israel, saying, If you do return unto the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the strange gods and Ashtoreth from among you, and prepare your hearts unto the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hands of the Philistines. Isn't that a reversal? So Israel, the goddess culture, is under the control of the Falastin, the Philistines, which is Palestine. Samuel is written under Saul, the first Habaru king, around 1050 before Common Era. King Solomon in 960 to 922 BCE revered the Queen of Heaven, Ashtoreth of the Sidonians. In 910, Queen Maacah is supposedly dethroned for worshipping Asherah, whose shrines were in Tyre, mentioned in texts of northern Canaan as the creator of all deities. In 850 BCE, the Habaru king Ahab married Jezebel, high priestess of Ashtoreth in Sidon. The goddess religion flourished in Samaria in the north and Judah in the south of Canaan. In 842, Jezebel's daughter Athaliah was queen of Jerusalem. In 935, King Ahab continued making Asherah or shrines to the goddess. Even by about 600 before Common Era, in Jeremiah 44, the women of Pathros in Egypt answer him, We have no intention listening to this word you have spoken to us in Yahweh's name, but intend to go on doing all that we have vowed to do, offering incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring libations in her honor as we used to do, in the town of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. We had plenty of food then. We lived well. We suffered no disasters. But since we have given up offering incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring libations in her honor, we have been destitute and have perished either by sword or by famine. Obviously, perishing by the sword is not a natural event. Were these women Falastin, taken from their homes in Canaan and brought with the invading army of Habaru into Egypt? Who was using swords against them? Merlin writes of the Bible accounts of slaughter and massacre of those who dared to pray to other gods. The insistent and repetitious sexual imagery, she writes, allows us to observe the Levite attitudes towards the sexual customs of the goddess religion and the sexual autonomy of women generally. Autonomy that had for thousands of years helped to allow women to retain their independence economically, socially, and legally. Thus were the laws of the Levites written into the destruction of the worship of the divine ancestress, and with it the final destruction of the matrilineal system. Your mother's a whore. Jeremiah's raving against the daughter of Egypt, Tyre, Sidon, and Ascalon replies to the women that they will meet with famine, violence, and total destruction, which they already said is their circumstance under Yahweh. Violence by men is divine retribution and fully condoned by God. Sex by women is the ultimate evil. Why? Israel and Judah are portrayed as whores and harlots, faithless women and adulterers. Ezekiel, addressing his audience as man, continues, "There were once two women, daughters of the same mother. They played the whore in Egypt, played the whore while they were still girls. For there they let their breasts be fondled, and their virgin bosoms pressed. The elder was named Aholah, and her sister Aholibah. They became mine, and bore me sons and daughters. Aholah is Samaria, Aholibah is Jerusalem. Thus I will put an end to lewdness in the land, and other women shall be taught not to be as lewd as they. And they shall burn thy houses with fire, and execute judgments upon thee to cease from playing the harlot." Nahum curses the goddess city of Nineveh, saying, "Because of the multitudes of the whoredom of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts, behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame." Is this biblical porn or what? And Hosea tells his daughter that her mother Gomer, a sacred woman of the temple, is lewd and a whore. When Gomer defies him, he threatens, "I will put an end to all her rejoicing, her feasts, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all her solemn festivals. I mean to make her pay for all the days when she offered burnt offerings to the Baals, and decked herself out with rings and necklaces to court her lovers, forgetting me. It is Yahweh who is speaking." It clarifies. Canaan or Falastin today. Burnt offerings of the food of the gods, not of the goddess unless it is barbecue for the kids. Mothers don't want the intentional infliction of pain in order to feel loved. So when we think about the gender of God versus goddess, it changes the character and what it is that we can imagine as an ordinary mother, not someone who is particularly divine and beyond human, but just the most ordinary of human mothers. When you have sacrifice of animals or humans, it's a way to bend God's will and make Yahweh answer to you. That's what those burnt sacrifices were. They were saying, I can control God. When the worship of the goddess which really shouldn't be called worship. It was listening. It was more looking at intuiting what is it that this means, and is there meaning, and is that meaning benevolent in the world? Yahweh in particular loves the smell of burning fat. So are Palestinians the calf that's being fattened for the slaughter? It doesn't seem so. I think the YahChoPeeps, Yahweh's chosen people, have always ended up on the pyre in the end. So I wonder if they're the chosen red heifer. Renee Gerlich, author of the series The Brief Complete Her Story, states that the first step in the destruction of women is ownership of the children. Fatherhood is a man-made construct, literally. A father claims a child as his owned. Mothers are made by nature. If mothers chose to prioritize the baby over themselves, none of us would be here today. Nature chooses for us, and a patriarchy that doesn't recognize that inviolable bond doesn't care about the welfare of children. Ava Corrine Bartlett has been writing about the Yahweh's continuation of these grotesque sacrifice rituals by luring starving Palestinians with food and then shooting them in the head or chest, including an 18-month-old girl being carried by her mother. She's also interviewed an American doctor in Palestine, Mimi Saeed, who has accounts of all of the children that she has seen shot in the heart or in the head. This also coincides with another site that I read, Women's Coalition Network, and it's talking about the homicides of children by parents, by fathers in all cases but one. So this is custody that's given to already abusive fathers. This sacrifice is going throughout our cultures, and that's what I think we need to be addressing if we want to help end this horrible, horrible genocide that is happening. We need to go right to the heart of it. And the heart of it is Canaan as the divine mother. And we need to be reclaiming the mother and saying, no, these things are not natural and they are not sacred. And for more on empire and religion, here is Lies That Kill, the Words of God. And this is Having Words on Peter Duke and Jason Horsley, looking at the mother, and whether the mother is what we should be getting back to, or whether that's the matrix we need to get away from. Thank you for watching.